How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Viral Virtue. It's your favorite apostates. I'm McKay.
I'm Jordan.
Welcome back, everybody. If this is you coming back to us, you haven't seen us in a little while, we're rebranded. It's the same as ever. We're going with Viral Virtue from here going forward. Somebody said that we should include our faces in the thumbnail so people realize that it's the same people.
That's fair.
We're doing our best, so making changes as they come. Just stay up to date on everything, and the transition should go over rather smooth. But before we get to the topic at hand, let's have a word from today's sponsor, Aura. If you don't already know, there was a pretty massive breach of tens of thousands of Bank of America accounts that were just lost because of a third-party company that they work with. That means that the sensitive information of everybody that those accounts belong to is now in the hands of people who can use them to do financial harm to others.
So not only is this information being stolen, but it's also ending up in the hands of people like data brokers who are then going to sell that data. They do it without your consent, and they make billions selling it to marketers, scammers, and even stalkers. And while they're legally required to remove your info if you ask, they make the process super complicated, confusing on purpose.
For this reason, we recommend Aura to our friends and family to keep them protected. Aura's out there doing the hard work for you and taking your information away from these sites and opting you out of these data broker collection schemes where they're making money off of your information.
Aura is essentially an all-in-one digital security. You get alerts if your personal information is found on the dark web, which is a scary thought. Real-time fraud alerts for credit and banking.
You also get 24/7 monitoring that keeps your information and identity secure. They also offer a secure VPN service, an antivirus password manager, and so much more.
They also offer United States-based support, which is available around the clock if something goes wrong. And if anything does happen, Aura includes $5 million in identity theft insurance protection.
And they do all of this in this simple, really convenient app. Just one app. Every layer of protection is right there. It feels awful knowing that there are people out there who are just skimming this data off of us, information about us, and just turning a profit off of it. That's why we choose Aura.
You can try Aura for free for 14 days at aura.com/Jordan and McKay. And in those 2 weeks, you will discover where your data is being exposed and sold.
We aren't leaving ourselves vulnerable, and neither should you. So thanks again to our sponsor for the day, Aura.
If you've never been here before, this is your first time, welcome.
Welcome. We love to have you.
Please join us. This is our weird corner of the internet where we talk about the intersection of influencers and religion, or religious influencers and the mess, essentially, and the chaos that gets created when those two things blend together. So that's what we're here talking about today. We recently started a series about the alt-right, essentially. We just started that one, did an introduction episode. We're going to start getting into alt-right specific themes now, like tradwives, wellness culture, conspiracy theory, new age, that kind of fun stuff. But I had somebody who messaged us and asked us for a more lighthearted video in between. So we figured we would return to some of our roots, which is talking about Girl Defined, because they're still on their bullshit, evidently, as usual. So we figured we would check in with the girlies and see what's going on.
If you've been following along for some time, you'll know that it's kind of been a minute since we have addressed Girl Defined. The last kind of update that we had was when Bethany and her husband, Dave, Bethany is one half of Girl Defined, had posted a video where Dave essentially said that even after being raised Christian and everything like that, he was reevaluating his beliefs and kind of deconstructing those kinds of things.
Love that for you.
Love that. However, that did cause kind of a whirlwind situation where people thought maybe Bethany was deciding to change some of her problematic views. There were some people kind of on our side of the aisle who got into the mix and everything and did a collaboration with them. And then after that, they kind of shut all of that down.
And then, if that wasn't enough to assure us, I mean, I'm all for people can change, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm literally a therapist. I'm all for the idea of, like, people can make different choices and change their perceptions, even coming from a very homophobic and transphobic religion, just like we did.
Yep.
But I was always very skeptical of Bethany. I think I gave her maybe too much hope in the beginning, because instead of thinking critically, in my opinion, and thinking about this a little bit deeper, she decides to take like basically a hard right turn into like white supremacy bullshit, where she had this account where she was posting these unhinged like Instagram reels.
Right?
Allegedly. It was linked in her account, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It was a whole debacle for a while. I'm pretty sure they linked it back to her fairly confidently. I think it was in her bio. And then somebody confronted her about it. Like, she actually stole a photo of like some random person's grandparents, and that person ended up being in that like our Fundy Snark Uncensored Reddit sub, which shout out to that person for calling her out on it.
What are
And
the
then
odds,
she
right?
shut the whole shit down. So like, or got removed, but I think she shut it all down because she was embarrassed. So I haven't seen anything on that account since then. I haven't been FSU much lately, but I haven't seen anything about it since then. So I don't know if she's stopped doing that. But here, my thoughts as somebody who works with especially couples who are deconstructing, or people who are deconstructing their faith. If one partner tends to deconstruct, it rattles the ground. It shakes the foundation of your marriage for these people, even a little bit, right? And so when that happens, sometimes there's a tendency for the other person to kind of go more extreme in their beliefs in their religion as a way of like almost doubling down, because it feels safer to like grab onto what you believe rather than entering really like what feels like scary unknown territory by going down the path of deconstruction. So I'm not excusing that behavior, because this was nasty on her part, but also unsurprising. But this, in a response to Dave potentially going outside of what she married him for, I could easily see her starting to double down on some of these concepts.
Another big point of criticism that was being made while this whole thing was going on was a book that was at the time yet to be released by Girl Defined. They have several books, but the latest one was called Made to be She, Reclaiming God's Plan for Fearless Femininity. And obviously, in today's climate, it's kind of obvious the slant that they're going to take in a book that's basically saying that you are made to be a woman if you are a woman already at birth.
The irony of them wigging out about pronouns, and the biggest letters on this are a pronoun. Like, I can't with this.
So there was at the time, a lot of pushback on her for, you know, if she's going to be changing her views, why would she be going ahead with putting
people
her
were like, well, she has a
book
contract for the book, and I never bought any of that shit.
Yeah.
For the record.
So that's just to bring you, also, Made to be She. That is a doo-doo name. I'm sorry.
Made to be She.
It's a doo-doo title. I can't. Sorry.
So, of course, they're still posting YouTube videos, though the views are abysmal. And we know about abysmal views, so don't come for us, okay? Like, this is pretty abysmal. So, 2,000 views from this video a month ago. This one is titled, Should Christian Girls Send Nude Photos? And I swear to God, they always pick the stupidest fucking questions and the stupidest fucking topics.
I know.
It's like the sensationalism of like, it gives like, it gives Matt Walsh with like, what's a woman then? What's a woman? Can you define what like, that's what it's giving to me. And I'm like, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares. Should Christian girls send nudes? Like, you guys are in your fucking 30s. Are you okay?
Right?
Why do you care?
I don't think
what
the
does
Bible
it matter?
said anything about sending nudes.
Oh,
I don't think it's that, you know.
Maybe Jesus would have been for nudes. I don't know.
If they can make a case to us on whether they should or shouldn't, you know, that's what we're here to decide.
I will hear you out.
Maybe.
Not really. But, you know, we're here. So let's just do it.
Okay, let's get into this.
What's up, y'all? It's Bethany and Kristen, and we're going to be talking about should Christian girls send nude photos? And your initial reaction might be like, oh my goodness, why is she talking about this? Like, does she know my phone history? And your reaction might be like, oh my goodness, I would newer do that. Like, why would I? We're going to have a whole host of.
I wasn't thinking that at all.
No. All I can think about is Bethany's top because she looks like a fucking birthday cake. It's like a white ruffled birthday cake.
Nice.
I wore those tops too in high school in like 2015.
Did they have like is this like their set now? I remember they were just doing it in like a bedroom or something.
The chair, it was in the bedroom for a while, but I think the chairs in the background are where there's that iconic video of like Kristen talking about her infertility journey and Bethany scrolling on her phone. I think that's that area behind the couch right there. So this must be Kristen's house.
Because we just have the static setup. That's why it's the same every single time.
Yeah, it's just.
If I had to set things up like that every time,
I would
in
never
the
film.
early days, we had to clean up the room and like make the bed and
we
everything.
did do it in our bedroom in the beginning.
Yeah, I would crash out if I was like years deep and still doing that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Of reactions to this question, but I would say in today's modern dating world, including in the Christian dating world, that sending nude photos, even just like viewing pornography, it's become very normal and casual and honestly
And encouraged.
I don't think that this is a new thing. Am I
In the
wrong?
passengers, what?
Am I wrong for thinking that this is not a new thing?
It's not a new thing, but they pick the same.
Right.
It's like the topics that were put in the question box at my random non-denominational Christian church's youth group
Right.
that the pastor would answer anonymously so that nobody would have shame. Like this
Right.
is what this is giving to me.
Like I feel
Is it
like
bad to send nudes?
I feel like people have been taking nude photos for as long as there have been cameras, right?
I mean, have
And
you
before
seen
that,
the
they were painting
statues
them.
of men and women from
Right.
any time period? Really?
Yeah. I mean, the intent was different, but I mean,
Is it not the same?
People
Is
were-
it not the same?
people were, bumping uglies.
Can we
and-
celebrate the female form without shame?
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Since the dawn of time, right? Also, just a little feedback. The sound game is on fleek.
I'm wondering
Gonna be
what's
honest.
happening with Kristen's lipstick. This is no shade. This is not an appearance thing because she can change it before you get triggered. Okay? But it looks like me when I forget to put my lipstick on after I put on my lip liner and I just leave the lip liner on and then it looks like I forgot to do the other step. It's changeable. Don't come for me.
encouraged and kind of like, this is healthy for you. And I would say there are a lot of Christian girls who are dating who kind of think like, I have to do some of these things in order to get a guy. And if I am not kind of like given these little nuggets, like, I'm not going to get a guy. Like, do you know the dating pool? Do you know what guys expect? Like, okay, like, especially if I'm telling him, like, I'm not going to have sex with you. Like, okay, I've got to send some nudes. Like, I've got to kind of keep him on the line. And so we just kind of want to talk about that and maybe give you a perspective that we believe is biblical and actually for your best and for like the best chance of a thriving relationship. So
I think one of the biggest issues that I have with this rhetoric is that instead of thinking for one iota of a second that the problem here might be men soliciting,
Right.
we're blaming women for sending. Like, do you see how there's no
Right.
conversation here around like, should Christian men be asking for nudes? No, because that doesn't exist because we don't blame men in religion. We don't blame men in religion. They instead will blame women and say, why are you guys sending it? Instead of going, why are they fucking asking? You know what I mean?
Why are you being put in a situation where you feel like he's not going to be interested unless he
If
sees
you don't
naked?
do that.
Right?
Is that not all men's fault? I'm sorry.
I was really surprised about the statistic. Maybe you will be. Maybe you will be. I don't know.
I don't know.
But something I found online said that 40% of teen girls were engaging in sending explicit messages or receiving explicit
Well,
messages. 40%. Does that surprise you or no?
not
In this day
really.
and age?
Where does that come from?
Citation needed.
Citation needed. Would I be entirely surprised? No.
No.
No, probably not. 40% seems high to me, but also my brain goes to what's explicit.
Right.
Define explicit. Are we talking like sexting? Are we talking actual photos? Like what are we talking about?
Right. It's too broad.
Citation needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that surprising. Obviously, this was a general pool. I don't know, Christians
Yeah.
or not. But sadly, like you said, it has become the norm. And in fact, few different articles on Cosmo, which is not a source you want to go to for any relationship.
I was taken back. Oh my God. Are you for real? Cosmo?
Does she not know?
About Evie?
No. What the is it called? Cosmopolitan magazine contains porn.
That's true.
If you're from Utah, you know.
You will get that.
If you're not,
We'll
I'll
put
show
up the
here's
billboard.
the billboard. Cosmo.
Relationship advice, marriage
Oh my
advice,
gosh, right?
any sort of advice whatsoever, please run away from Cosmo. not good stuff. And here's an example of why. These
there
were
you
some
go.
of their articles
So I
and
guess you were
promoting
gonna say that.
sexting to single women, specifically in dating relationships. Here's one title: Why Sexting is Good for You. So in dating, really promoting like why it's going to embellish your relationship and why it's good for you. Another article was titled Scientists. Sexting is totally normal. So now we're bringing in the scientists.
So dumb.
What are the scientists?
Okay, here's my beef. Cosmopolitan is not aimed at teen girls.
I was gonna say,
Number one.
like we started off talking about teens, and now we're talking about go out and ask any teenager.
They don't read magazines.
They don't read magazines. They definitely don't know what Cosmopolitan magazine
When
is.
I was a kid, I would steal my stepmom's Cosmopolitan magazines because I was bad. Okay.
Uh-oh.
But here's the thing. Cosmopolitan 1 is not marketed or targeted for teen girls. Do some teen girls read them? Maybe. But if I grabbed 100 random teenage girls right now and
Yeah.
asked them if they've read a magazine in like the last 10 years, they would
Right.
probably ask me what the is a magazine, okay? I don't even remember the last time I've picked up a magazine. So let's be for real here. And from a healthy, balanced perspective, adults engaging in consensual sexual behavior is healthy.
Right.
It is normal. Like, we're going to constantly return to that point, right? And I would say, I'm always going to tell people to be careful when it comes to sending nudes because you never know
Right.
what happens to the person you send them to, even if you're married to them. But if you're going to do that, if you're comfortable and you're taking proper precautions and everybody is under agreement, what's going to happen with those photos? Are they going to get deleted? Are they going to get stored in a password protected folder? Am I going to take nudes that don't have my face in them to protect myself just in case with no identifying characteristics? Like, between consenting adults,
Right.
why do we care? Why
Well,
do I care?
Even if you take it a bit further, like it seems like they're coming at this from a like unwed, premarital
women.
relationship kind of
in
way,
dating?
which
I don't care about that either.
obviously they do because they're like, they want to maintain sexual purity or whatever before marriage.
Yeah.
But like, why is that the thing that they're focusing on when they could focus on these same situations within their marriage? I don't know.
I just don't see,
Just me.
other than like protecting yourself and protecting where that image goes and knowing that like phones aren't secure, apps aren't secure, nothing is secure. Like, if you're like, we're talking about risk mitigation
Right.
and awareness here. If you're aware of the risk and it's still worth it to you and you take precautions that make you comfortable with this, then why do you care? Do I love the idea of teens doing it? No, because they're probably not doing it in a safe
Right.
way and they don't understand all the components like an adult would. But also, this just shows that girl defines continual fixation on teenage girls. Like, why are we in our 30s with children
Right.
continually talking about teenage girls? Like, I think these women think that the only things that they have to offer is like teenage girls. But from like a marketing standpoint, I think these two would be much more marketable if they shifted their content focus to married women. Honestly.
Well, I don't know because maybe it's just because it was Bethany and she's not very likable in that department. But Bethany did that. She had her own little Instagram.
She
I can't
worked
even remember
Shart
what
or something
no,
else.
it was like the other one where she
Oh,
was
she has,
talking
like,
about
7.
intimacy. I know it's been so long. I don't even know if it's around still, but she was posting things about like, I don't know, sexual innuendos and like spicing things
yeah,
up.
it was like marriage
and-
something.
And
But
it
it's Bethany.
did not do good. I know, that's why I said maybe.
Like,
it's
if you
because of
have the
Bethany.
platform to some degree, you have Christian women, like, the people that they're marketing to compared to now, probably when they started, is like they're talking to the children of the
Right.
girls who probably started watching them a long time ago. So I think it would be much more
yeah.
marketable, especially like because teen girls don't want to listen to adults. I was a teen girl. I didn't give a shit about authority. I had problems. I didn't care about any of that shit.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to listen to two pretentious middle-aged white women talking to me about
Right.
this.
That's how I like.
Why do I care?
You got kids. What are you doing?
Why are you talking to me about this? I don't care.
Right.
Like, on your level, like, we don't advertise ourselves to children or teenagers.
No.
Like, we know our age group is people that are our age, and I think that's a lot of times how it works. And shout out to the people who love us that are older or younger than that. We love you too.
Shut up.
And just bringing to the table to say that this is
Cannot roll my eyes
totally
bigger.
normal. Okay, normal maybe like because a lot of people are doing it, but is normal always good and healthy? Like, come on, scientists. And then another one that they had was an article titled "A Safer Way."
This is giving my grandma crashing out on Facebook.
is normal good or it? Come on, scientists. Observe the data that I want you to observe. Don't observe stuff that goes against my bias. What the hell?
To sext. And here they were giving lots of tips. I kind of like skimmed through it. Just like, okay, make sure that blah, 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 your phone, and you keep it protected and that other people can't. You know, you want to send it privately and just keep in mind someone could find it on someone else's phone. Like, oh my goodness. So we know the advice out there in culture is that this is normal. This is healthy. This is something everyone engages in. If you want to keep the spice.
This is what we call harm reduction. Okay.
Right.
Like, you know damn well that you tell your teenagers, you tell your kids not to do shit, and you know because they have an underdeveloped prefrontal cortex, that part of their brain hasn't fully developed yet. They don't have the risk awareness and impulse control that you or I or any other adult do. You know damn well they're going to do shit that they ain't supposed to do. So would you rather not? To me, this is the same as like preaching like abstinence over comprehensive sex ed. Because it's like, it's no mystery that the kids are doing it. It's clearly based on this random data point that they pulled out of their ass that teens are sending nudes to each other or explicit messages to each other. Clearly they're doing it. You're not going to get them to stop doing it, and you're not going to get them to stop doing it by shaming them. Ask me how I know, personally and professionally. And so do we not just offer them an option where we just mitigate risk? Like, hey, don't do that. Don't do it on this phone. If you're going to do it regardless, here are some things that you need to know.
Right.
Don't include your face in it. Be mindful of who you're sending it to, because it's not just you, it's the whole football team. Like, things like that, to offer some nuggets of information to try to get it through, you know, their underdeveloped brains. They're still probably going to do it anyway, but would you not rather provide them with something that can do it in a healthier way?
Right.
Like, if you're going to have sex and not listen to me, I probably can't stop you, fine, but at least use protection.
Yeah.
At least get on birth control. Like, is this not any different?
And call it an anecdote if you want, but our state of Colorado, back in the 2010s, they increased funding for things like comprehensive sex ed and access to sexual wellness and everything like that, and taking away requiring parent consent to get things like birth control and things like that. And wouldn't you know it, teen pregnancy went down. So
wouldn't you know it?
Call it an anecdote if that makes you feel better, but that is just how it played out.
In your dating relationship, or keep the guy. These are some great tips on how to do that. But right now, right off the bat, we will just say, throw it out. Yeah. It's garbage. It is not good for you.
Yeah. And if you are running in a circle or you are around guys.
What bothers me about this also is the flip side of this coin is just like trad wife bullshit. Like, make sure that you have makeup on and that you look cute when he comes home from work. Make sure that you're offering yourself to him on a regular basis so that he knows that you take the initiative. Like, this is just the other side of the coin. They just don't like what we're, like, what, you know, like, more progressive or liberal people are telling people to do instead of, like, the traditional trad wife bullshit. But it's all, like, the flip side of the coin is just trad wife propaganda, is it not?
Where you feel like you have to do these things in order to get a boyfriend, in order to get guys to be interested in you. You are in the wrong group. I promise you that I know. Like, I know single guys. I promise. I know single guys who are godly who would not want that. Like, they desire to honor God with their life, and they desire to honor and respect the woman that they're dating. And that would be like a red flag to them if you were trying to send that. So I just want to encourage you, like, if you are in that kind of group where pornography is normalized, where
at least that's what they tell you, right?
Yeah. Because some of the most heinous stories I've heard going to college in Utah and having friends in Utah is the amount of returned missionaries, the amount of Mormons asking for nudes, doing heinous shit, sharing nudes, like all of these things. Like, they want to act like the religion is like the safekeeping barrier to keeping this shit out, when in my opinion, them doing this just amplifies the problem. Because instead, what we're creating around these experiences is shame. And there's lots of sexual shame just in general. And so sending nudes is not as bad as sex. So it's like, still not great, but I can kind of reason myself into doing it and not feeling as much shame. And then those are the men who are constantly perpetuating this shit on an even deeper and more intense level because there's so much shame about what they're doing. And we enter into this shame cycle. So the irony of this is them coming out here and being like, don't do this. This is bad. This is wrong. You shouldn't be doing this. You are not godly. Like, it's just magnifying the issue.
Most likely not a drag queen.
No.
where explicit sexual content is normalized, where, you know, stuff like OnlyFans is even normalized. Like, run away, like find a better church, to find a different community. Like, even if you have to like kind of be on your own for a minute as you search out more.
What church is normalizing
Seriously,
OnlyFans?
right?
Where is this that
I don't
exists
think
in their
there's a
mind?
single church out there that's
What
doing
the
that.
fuck?
Godly, solid, like biblically rooted friends, like they are out there. I know sometimes it can seem like this is just what everyone's doing, but it's not. There was when I was single, we've shared about this, and
This is just my personal thought. You think about how much time Bethany puts into this content, these videos, these Instagram accounts. She waited till, was she 30 when she got married, or damn near 30? I think she was 30.
Remember.
I don't know. Somebody tell me in the comments. But regardless, she waited a really long time for this godly man that she envisioned. Okay? To the point that she's projecting it all over the audience.
Everybody else.
But now she has a man who's not godly anymore. That creates a lot of emotion. That even creates some grief, which is valid for her. You would have to grieve that the person that you married is not who you thought they would be for the rest of your life. And it's not to say that you're going to pressure them into doing something else. Maybe she is. I don't know. But she has to grieve that emotion and accept the fact that that's who he is or who he's going to be if he continues down that path. But sometimes I feel like we get stuck there and then we just project it onto everybody else. It's like, you know, the pastors' wives who have pastor husbands who are addicted or formerly addicted to pornography. And then they make it their whole mission to make sure that the youth group isn't watching pornography because it's personal to them. It's personal to you, you know? But like all this goes to show that you can do everything right. You can wait like Bethany. You can wait decades. You can wait a long time to meet this godly man, and he can still fail you. He can still not show up. He can still fuck up. You can still not get the marriage that you wanted. And I think there would be a lot of grief and probably resentment in that. I waited a long time and got the godly man, and then he gave up God. Like, I would have a lot of anger about that.
That's fair. Also, I guess to the point about like why are they kind of sticking with the teens? I don't know, maybe they know this or not, but it seems like there is kind of a large shift in younger people toward like
Gen Z especially
puritanical type culture. Often see people or like young people in the comments on like Instagram and shit who are just like shitting all over people who do OnlyFans and everything. And I don't, you know, I have to believe that they're probably just putting on a front because obviously nobody would be making money if that were the case. But yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe they see that kind of a shift going
previous episodes, but like both of us saved our first kiss for marriage with our husbands. Both of us saved sex for marriage with our husbands. And I remember like saving my first kiss for marriage was just a commitment I had made. And I still look back on it and like, that's a commitment I made. And I'm glad I made that commitment.
Gold star. Gold star. Is that what you want from that?
Gold star.
Okay.
And guess what? I got married, you know? But I remember there was a guy who asked me out, and I remember I was at church and he was the single guy. He asked me out. This was like, honestly, not that long before Dave asked.
I saved my first kiss for marriage, but I gave it up. The other stuff. But the kiss I saved for marriage. Just kidding.
Me out. And I told him, I was like, you know, I am kind of like extreme. I know you already know that. Like, I'm kind of conservative and I'm not kissing till I'm getting married. So if that's a problem with you, just like, don't even waste your time with me. And he was like, oh, I actually respect that, you know? And he was like, I think that's actually kind of cool. And he was super respectful. We went on a date. It didn't work out. He's happily married with kids. I'm happily married with kids. But I'm just telling you, like, there are guys that respect your boundaries. There are guys that respect God's design for saving sex for marriage. There are men out there that desire to honor you and respect you and to want to like honor the body that God's given you, honor the place, the sacred place of marriage for the nudity and for the sex and for all of that. And so just know, like, it's possible to have boundaries. It's possible to have standards and still get married. So don't be just.
Is anybody saying that it's not?
I feel like they're trying to paint the world as saying that, like, you need to be based on some Cosmopolitan articles, right? Like, oh, you need to keep him interested by sending him nudes and casual sex. And
the world is their canvas with their broad brush. I just envision Bethany running around with like a house-sized paintbrush.
You can
like,
get away with anything.
Broad brush over
with saying
everything.
The world is saying that you can't do this, but guess what? I'm here to tell you that it's not.
That's such like a bullshit marketing technique, you know? It's like a hook for an Instagram reel. Like, my life changed the minute I started doing XYZ. Like dipping my face in cold water. Okay. Good for you, I guess.
If you say anything with conviction,
somebody will believe it.
Somebody will believe it.
I mean, look at where we are as a country right now.
Seriously.
Scourge, like, if I'm not sending the news, I'm never going to get married. Like, well, good, because you don't want to marry the guys that wants the nudes.
I know.
You know,
living testimonies.
See, that's where you lose me, because instead of just saying, like, hey, this is my preference, we don't send nudes, I don't like it, I don't appreciate it, I want men who also feel the same way, fine. They don't stop there. They instead imply that there's something wrong, morally wrong, with people who do it differently. And that's where you lose me. Like, if you were just on here saying all of that shit and you stopped right there, I'd be like, okay, whatever. My belief is different. Your belief is different. We all go on and live a happy fucking merry life, okay? But that's not where they stop. The majority of their time is focusing on what the left is doing.
Right.
What the non-Christians are doing.
That's like the subtext, right? Mm-hmm. The fucking heathens.
Right.
The evil communist Democrat leftists.
And I don't think the content would really work without it, to be honest, because if there's not a boogeyman, what's really pushing you that direction, unless you're like super deeply invested, you know? That's why I just think it's lame.
Well, and they're also implying that if somebody were sent something like that, that it's impossible to fucking like respect you. Like if you just out of the blue sent them a little photo, that there's no way that they could still honor you or, you know, appreciate your body in that sort of manner. Which,
come on,
you don't know people.
You don't know.
Obviously, there are guys out there, and I would say most of them dogs, right? We can agree. I know men. So obviously, there are people out there who are going to take advantage of that and maybe do awful things with it. But there are
There's
also
always
people,
bad people out there. But to portray anybody who disagrees with your beliefs as those people is where you lose me.
It is possible. Okay, so is it a big deal to God? That can be something that, like, okay, well, you're just conservative. That's just your opinion. Like, well, what does God actually think about this? Well, he doesn't specifically talk about texting nude photos because...
Wow! Earth-shattering...
What a revelation.
Why is this funny? Like their version of Jesus today would be like Call Her Daddy podcast. You know, where he sits there, he has a lot of viewers, everybody's obsessed with the guests, but he's just sitting there talking about shit that you want to hear, things that you want to talk about. We wouldn't even let him in because he's brown, but that's besides the point.
You're right.
Obviously, phones didn't exist back then. But we see very clear, which I appreciate how Scripture can be so direct and so clear about things because it offers us a clear path forward. Like, this is God's good for you. And 1 Thessalonians 4:3-5 is
like testing you to kill your children, or that like plucking your own eye out if you lust over a woman, or like not wearing certain kinds of fabric. All those direct things, or do you just choose what you want to believe, what you want to follow? That's what you're doing, just like everybody else. So you're not special. Okay.
Your man shouldn't pluck his eye out if he lusts after you. It should be your job to
somebody
make
call
sure
Paul
he
and let
does
him know.
It's very clear when it says, for this is the will of God. Okay, we always want to know, what's the will of God? What does he want from me? What does he desire from me? For this is the will of God. What is it? For your sanctification. Okay, for growing you, changing you to be more like Christ. That you abstain from sexual immorality.
Okay, here's my thing. Jesus didn't say anything. God didn't say anything specifically about nudes and sending nude photos.
Right.
So why are you just going to assume that he's against it, huh? How do we know? Maybe Jesus was chill with the ladies and he liked sending dick pics. I don't know. People are going to hate me for this in the comments. But it's just like anything else where I can just take anything out of the Bible and plop it down and justify it by my means.
And call it what it is, whatever
for any reason.
Well, this isn't even Jesus talking. This is like Paul or Peter or someone. This is one of the epistles.
Another dude.
And we're just going to take he was just out here like, yeah, I hated Christians, but this is what God's will is. I don't know. I guess that's the inspiration.
What if sanctifying yourself is engaging in healthy sexual behavior in a consensual manner? But I already lost you there. You'll freak out at that.
Each one of you know how to control his own body in holiness and honor, not in the passion of the lust like the Gentiles who do not know God.
a beautiful, straightforward, this is the will of God kind of passage telling us that we are called as Christians to abstain from sexual immorality, any sort of sexual act that's
not even what I got out of that. Like, I don't know. There are parts of the Bible that are very explicit about sexual immorality. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Mormonism even has one that compares it to murder. So, like, believe me, I'm familiar.
You're right.
But, like, this is just an example to me of, like, we can make anything mean anything.
Yeah.
Like, 2 + 2 can equal 12 if I can find some compelling reason for it to be. Everything can mean anything if I understand nothing.
Right. Dan McClellan always talks about, like, the univocality of the Bible and things like that. And just, like, it's important to remember that this is a collection of writings.
Uh-huh.
And it's a collection of interpretations in whatever version that you're reading, right?
It's viewed so one-sided.
Right.
Like, these were potentially actual people, right? Actual people who existed. You can't tell me that these men were celibate.
Right.
The majority of their lives. You can't tell me that these men didn't have sexual activity with women. And they're being held as these lovely, great people. Are you going to record that? Are you going to record your sexual escapades in your little diary that's going to be read by billions of people later in life? Like, no, I don't think he's gonna. Obviously, he didn't know that. But also, you're generally not going to write that down. But, like, could it still be happening? Because we have a very one-dimensional picture of these people and who they were at the time. Like, do we even know? No, not really. Not really.
Immoral. That goes against God's design for sex within marriage, which is the only biblical and holy place to experience that, the only relationship where that is an honorable, beautiful thing in the sight of God within marriage, but to not pursue the passion of the lust like the Gentiles, right? This is saying there are people who do not know God, and so they act in a way without knowledge of their creator, without a desire to glorify their creator, without understanding their creator's design for them and for their good. They have no thought of that. They act in a way without God in mind. Yeah. And this verse is saying, don't act like that. As a Christian, this is my will for you, that you do the things mentioned. So I think it's so encouraging.
That's like everything in Christianity boiled down. This is what God wants, to do what he asks, right?
I once went...
This is not like that groundbreaking...
I once went tracting with the missionaries. I went proselytizing with the missionaries when I was in high school. Lots of interesting experiences. Lots of nude men answering the door on the level of, like, nude photos. But one of the most, like, fascinating...
I just want to take a second. Don't fucking do that.
That's weird.
It's not funny.
It's not funny.
Sexual harassment.
The poor missionaries.
Just putting that out there.
But anyways, I went tracting with them. We knocked on somebody's door. We're talking to this guy. He actually seems interested. Like, we're talking to him, like, out on the front step, right? Because he's a dude and we can't go inside his house. So we're, like, talking to him. And we're sitting there and chatting, and he's asking questions. And the missionaries are, like, getting really excited. And we're like, oh, we might have, like, an actual investigator out of this. He sounds kind of...
We got a live one.
And then he's like, wait, so because you just gave me all this knowledge, does that mean I'm fucked? And I was like, oh, my God. Because in Mormonism, it's like... If you don't know the will of God, if you don't know Mormonism, if you don't know the ordinances, then you don't get punished. Like, you'll get your opportunity when you die to be baptized by a Mormon who will help you out. Okay, so for all of you who aren't Mormon and aren't aware of it, like, you're safe. But for those of you that are here, you're fucked, and I'm sorry. But that was kind of the idea, is like, so you mean by telling me right now, I just, like, I'm
screwed.
I'm damned by Mormon God now because I have this information and I'm willingly not going to be baptized into your church. And that always sat with me, where I'm like, I wonder how many people wish that they didn't know.
Right. So much easier.
And so helpful to get such clear direction from Scripture. And I would say, based on this and many other passages we won't have time to go into, that sexting, taking nude photos of yourself and sending them to someone who is not your husband, that falls in line with sexual immorality. And God is saying, abstain, don't do that. That is not my will for you.
And I think it's important to note that that doesn't mean that, like, your body is bad, that your body is shameful, that sex is shameful. That's not at all. But it's saying there's a good context for this. There is a good place for this, where there has been a commitment, where there has been a covenant, where there is the, like, sanctity of marriage. There's protection. There is care and love for.
If the motivator is shame, it's shameful. I'm sorry. If your reason for doing it is, like, you're going to be punished, or you're going to have to repent, or God's going to think less of you, or men in the church are going to think less of you. If that's the underlying motivator for these things, regardless of whether you think it is or not, it is motivated by shame, period. Like, you can say all this nice stuff about, like, my body's fine and, like, all this shit, but if I'm gonna get in trouble when I do this shit, then we've entered the shame cycle, and that's exactly what I'm gonna believe.
I feel like that's where they've kind of tried to rebrand, is a lot of their brand in the 2010s was big on shame, and
Shame,
now
shame,
they're trying to
shame.
pretend that they're away from that. They're trying to promote healthy sexuality within marriage and everything like that, which is like,
Without changing anything, though.
yeah,
Like, nothing's changed.
they're like trying to go off and say, oh, there's healthy sexuality within marriage. Like, yeah, it's always been like that. Why are you trying to pretend like it wasn't
Hello?
always implied? We're still on the same kind of rhetoric. We're just on the different side of the fence talking
Right.
about it.
It's like, I don't even know a good metaphor for this, but it's like nothing's changed. They're just trying to, like, Band-Aid over, like, well, don't feel bad. It's like,
Right.
you're gonna go to hell if you have sex for marriage, but don't feel bad. Don't be shamed by that. That's
well,
okay.
and you look at it and they're like, that's sexual immorality. Sexting and sending nude photos, that's sexual immorality.
it?
Well, what makes that sexual immorality, right?
I don't hear penetration.
Right. And it's bad because you are eliciting some sort of exciting response from your partner. That's what makes it sexual immorality.
It's because it's your body, like
Your
Mormonism used
body.
to say, your body is a temple and it's not meant to be shared with anybody.
Right.
And the underpinnings of that is, if it was like on a boundaries level, like protect yourself and you don't
Right.
have to do anything you don't want to do, I'm here for that. You lose me at like trad wife propaganda where your husband's basically entitled to it and nobody says otherwise.
Exactly.
Like, it's like your body's a temple and it's sanctified and it's for you
Yeah.
until you're in a marriage, then it's really not anymore. And it's like, it's not, your body's a temple and you want to protect it for you. It's because you don't want the men to fall.
Right.
You know, we don't want them to lust. Like,
Ultimately,
everything is
yeah.
for men's purpose. Like, it
Ultimately,
always
you
comes
shouldn't
back.
be sharing what is your future husband's with anybody else.
Exactly. Because it belongs to him, really.
Right.
Or that, and the way that our culture has just kind of degraded and made sex and nudity like cheap, like dime a dozen, you know? Do people still say that? Like, I say it's like, I feel like growing up, that's all our parents said, like dime a dozen. But like times have changed, inflation. Do we still say dime a dozen? Anyway, but it's almost like it's just like been degraded so much. And it's just been kind of like so casual and so cheap. And like, of course, everyone just does this. But I just want you to know there is still like so much beauty.
It's the moral panic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is nothing new. It's not like all of a sudden 2000 hit and everybody's like, let's have affairs. Let's share explicit photos with each other. You know, let's say dirty things and make dirty jokes. This has literally been around since humankind has been interacting with each other.
Yeah.
Like, this is not anything that's new. It's taken on new forms with faster and more creative types of communication. But
well, and you see the assumptions that are made. Like, obviously, we're pro sex work over here on this channel,
Right.
but like, you see the assumptions that are made that like women who do sex work are obviously like disempowered, disgusting, evil, immoral, like all of those things. When I think obviously there are cases in sex work that are not empowering and are
obviously,
obviously an industry that
Exploitative.
is rife with exploitation. But for the women who are doing it in a capacity that feels right for them, like, who's to say that's disempowering? Like, I would say being
Right.
able to take control of you, your body, your financial situation, your generational wealth, your impact. Like, I would say that's fairly fucking empowering. And if I don't have any moral issues around sex, then who the fuck is gonna be
Right.
upset at me? Like, what's the point? And if I'm being careful and using protection and I'm engaging in things in a consensual manner, like, you
Right.
can, like, this is so sensational to them that you can never bring them there, because like the sheer like word sex work to them is just gonna like, nah, it's like trigger,
Right.
triggered, no, don't talk about it, it's bad, it's terrible. Like, there's no, it's just like with anything else, like, it's the religion promotes very extensive black and white thinking, and so anything that's like out of that black and white and is in an area of ambiguity or nuance, you lose them because they can't contain it.
Right.
The discomfort of being in a nuanced position is something that they can't handle, which is why religion is so black and white. And it's why when people leave religions, it's so uncomfortable, because we're out of black and white now and all we have is gray. Like, there's nothing but gray around me, and that is so disconcerting. It is so uncomfortable to be in that position. So it's just easier for me to stay in my black, white, Wrong,
Right.
right, box. It's so much harder to develop an
Right.
opinion that is more nuanced and takes in more factors than just, it's immoral. It's banned.
Well, and why would you be shaming the workers who are tapping into a market
That's
more
funded
or
by
as
men.
much that has always existed and will always exist? There would be no work if there were no market.
Christian women, I mean, check your hubby's bank accounts, girlies. Because the reason these women are so successful isn't because of women, generally speaking. It's because of men. So instead of ranting to women about we should be doing XYZ, like, where is the girl defined for men? Because all I hear about for men is Andrew Tate and that kind of bullshit, which just
I
tells
know.
men that they can do whatever the fuck they want without consequence. Like, there is no girl-defined equivalent for men in this context because men are never shamed in the same way that women are. Like, there are religious men kind of podcasts and shit, but they don't talk about stuff like this. They don't talk about stuff like... They might talk
Right.
about porn because that's one that men
That
get
is
into
like
a lot.
the one.
But they'll never talk about the fact that men are the reason that a lot of this contributes to shame in general. Like, it's literally the structure of the religion is built on that. But
Right.
there is no girl defined for men because men don't get to experience shame in the same way that women do.
and so cheap, and like, of course, everyone just does this. But I just want you to know there is still like so much beauty and so much delight and so much just
Someone picked up a thesaurus.
like, I don't know, awe that can be had.
Where is she going with this?
Like, for sex, for intimacy, for nudity within the marriage covenant. And
Covenant!
it's amazing. Like, having been married for 6 years, having been married for 14 years. Like,
Almost 14.
I don't know about you, but like for me, you're learning, you're changing, you're growing with your spouse. And so it doesn't, for me at least, it doesn't get old. It doesn't get like, seen that before. You know, it's like you grow, you.
Is she trying to convince herself?
Right.
Like, I feel all of this is so implied.
Yeah. And I feel like that was kind of the crux of the whole little Instagram
Spicy thing.
godly sexuality spicy account was like, it felt like the whole time it was like, are you trying to convince yourself or are you trying to convince other people?
Uh-huh.
Which, obviously I don't have any, whatever they do is, their business or whatever. But when you're getting on the internet and you're like telling all this shit to, whoever happens upon it, it's like,
Well,
okay.
It gives like the stereotype is like once you're married, like once you're in this like godly Christian covenant marriage, that your sex life is just like bleh, like dead on the table.
Right.
Like that's the stereotype that exists. And so it's interesting to me that that's like when I don't
What she goes with.
secularly, sure, like people's marriages go through phases where there might be more sexual activity versus another, depending on,
Yeah.
desire, discrepancies, arousal, things like that. But like by and large, I feel like most people are in agreement that like sex in marriage is not like sucky just because you're married or just because you've been married for a
Right.
long time. But that's the way that she's making it sound. And it's like it feels like overcompensating. Like it feels like you're overcompensating to tell me that like it is good and it's so good.
Right.
But then like in a Christian context, why do we have Christian men that have affairs? Why do we have Christian men that have porn addictions? Why do we have like, again, this always comes back to the woman too. It's like, what are like, you're saying no to your husband. That's why he has a porn addiction. You're not dressing yourself in a way that he finds attractive. And so that's why he had to step out on you. Like the irony in all of this is it always comes back to being women's fault and like women's obligation to keep the marriage spicy when that's like a dual endeavor.
Once you get married, all the interest is gone because there's no thrill of the sin, right?
Which I even think, and I don't know, maybe this is part of the purity culture of it all. Like if you've waited, like especially like these two who allegedly waited till marriage, like wouldn't you think you'd be over the moon in that sexual relationship because you weren't having sex
Right.
before then, you've never been with anybody else? Like wouldn't you think it'd be over the moon? And that's what people think. That's what Christians, Mormons, religious people think. Not to say that it doesn't happen that way sometimes,
Right.
but I feel like in this context, if you're waiting just for the sake of a religious purpose in this kind of context, not because it's like an actual value of yours, but more so because the shame's motivating you, the purity culture switch doesn't turn off
Right.
in marriage. And it's often unhealthy and it's often awkward and weird and difficult. And people come to people like me to kind of work through the dynamics that are created by things like purity culture. Like it's harmful to even to married people. Like that's what's ironic about all of this is they perpetuate things that make their sex lives, their marriages more difficult than they would if they just kind of let this be something they believe without being a shame motivator.
There are people out there who save this thing for their marriage. It's supposed to be like
Hyped it up.
the peak of the relationship with the person that you are with, right? Only for it to be the thing that destroys that marriage. And then where do you go from there?
Or there's disappointment, or there's awkwardness, or they don't know how to talk about it, or there's a desire discrepancy and they don't know how to handle it, or there's something like ED or medical concerns, or
anatomy,
and
not being
anatomical
understood.
issues. Like, there's so much that comes out of this that, like, if this stuff wasn't present and they actually were just like, yeah, wait till marriage if you want, here's how to have a healthy sexual relationship,
and it'll be the best thing ever.
it would be so crazily different than it is right now.
Right.
Purity culture gives you nothing.
You become closer, your love grows, and so the intimacy that you have, like, with your spouse, it increases, and it becomes more amazing as you work on that relationship, as you grow and mature your.
It gives my intimacy is better than yours because I waited,
Yeah.
is what it gives. But time and time again, therapeutically, professionally, in my job, I see that is simply not the case. And more, in fact, it's often the opposite. And people are very discouraged because they've held this idea that it's going to be like this, I don't know, like existential, like magnetic, magnificent explosion type experience, because they've built it up to this because they waited, right? So like they get their gold star because you waited in terms of like sex. So my sex is going to be amazing because I waited, which just isn't how it works. And often because you waited and because a lot of people don't know anything or they don't get sex ed, then it sucks for the first little while. And they're like, why is this so terrible? This is ass. It's not supposed to be like this.
Or their partner doesn't know, and then, you know,
it's not pleasant or pleasurable. And like, so all of this just creates like 15 different pathways for scenarios where people are not satisfied in their sex life is all that happens, really.
Right. While waiting for marriage is going to be something that could be important to you, ultimately shame is going to be the number one enemy.
I have no shade
of
to
those
you.
situations.
If you decide you want to wait, that's fine. But you're probably coming at a perspective where it's not motivated out of shame versus like, this is a choice that I've made and I want to do this for me.
Right.
Yourself. And so just know, like, there's so much beauty to be had in marriage and so much delight in that context and so much excitement and fun and meaning that can be had in that context. So I just want you to be excited about that and to just know again that there are godly men who desire a woman who has boundaries, who has convictions. And even if you know, you're like, well, I could settle and get married tomorrow, you know, because there are these guys here that would want to marry me, but you know they're not.
But do you see how the implication here is that if it's not like that, you're doing something wrong? Like, it's so intimate and amazing and magnificent and you're going to love it and it's going to be incredible. And then when you get married, like you wait, you have sex with your husband and it's awkward and it's bumbly and it's weird and it's not at all how you expected. Then people come to me like, what is wrong with me? Like, why is it like this? Did I do something wrong? They're thinking back in their past history for something that maybe they should have repented for. Like, it gets so dark so fast because it's like, oh, it's so, like, these girls talk about it like, it's so amazing. It's so great. It's so much intimacy. And all of that is like loaded words that could be interpreted by anybody to mean anything. And I think it just hypes up this experience to be something that realistically it's probably not going to be, especially your first time.
Right. Well, I mean, in Christianity at large is probably the same way, but I remember in Mormonism there is this idea that when you keep God's commandments, you're rewarded.
Yeah.
So when you spend 25 years of your life and you're avoiding temptation, you're avoiding any sort of arousal or anything, no sex, no kissing or whatever, and then you get to the green light finally and it's disappointing, what does that do in your brain where you're like, I should have been rewarded and I'm disappointed? Like,
it's akin to, am I being punished? Should I do something wrong? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with her? What's like, it creates a mess when it could just be normalized as it might be weird and awkward.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean anything about your mortal progression.
Sometimes you're going to rip ass and there's smells and, you know, whatever.
And it's
not like this mind-blowing, magnetic, amazing awe.
Yeah.
And, you know,
setting your expectations too high.
Yeah.
It can get there, sure, in a relationship. But especially if it's your first time and nobody knows what they're doing and nobody's watching porn and nobody's having comprehensive sex ed and nobody has any experience other than that, or maybe they only watched porn. Like, it gives such like a horrible map for what it's going to be and what it's going to look like. And it just sets people up to be disappointed.
Men, you know, they don't have the convictions and standards that you would hope for. Like, don't settle. It's not worth it. We've shared in different podcast episodes about like the type of man to look for, the type of marriage that can be had. So I really encourage you just to go look back at the last few episodes and maybe to listen those as well. I think it might help you to kind of like round out this conversation.
Well, and I just a side note on that. I think in our book, Love Defined, we talk about, I think, 10 red flags to look for in a romantic relationship. So if you're like, ooh, that's a red flag. If a guy is asking me for nudes and just saying like, look, we're in a committed relationship. We're probably going to get married someday. Or look, we're engaged. We already said that we want to marry each other. It's not that big of a deal. And you start seeing these compromises. Those are red flags. And until, having a ring on your finger and being engaged you are not married.
Yeah.
You are saying, I am committed to marrying you, but we are not married yet. So if you start to see some of these compromises, these red flags, I'm not saying just end the relationship right now, right then, like get some counsel, get some godly input and say, this is what's happening. What do you think about this from the outside looking in? What would you advise biblically? How should we handle this? How should I process this request that he just gave me for nude photos?
I feel like because they're talking about engaged ain't married, which is true, right? But it also kind of makes it feel a little lackluster. Like you've promised you are going to enter into a marital agreement with this person. Are we taking it so unseriously? Like you're just going to propose to anyone? And we're just going down to semantics. Like you have to be married in order for this to be.
Well, right. These are all these like, did Jesus foresee engagement periods and promise rings?
Right.
And, did he create all of that? Like, did he envision and foresee that and give you a plan for how you want to handle that? Or did you just take your shame-based moral injury bullshit and ego issues and project it on everybody else? Because you have to, all of this essentially in my mind, especially with religion in an unhealthy context, not like you Christians who watch us who are like, well-rounded and different. Like this kind of very narrow-minded Christianity creates an elitism complex. It's I'm better than you because I waited for marriage. I'm better than you because I didn't kiss my husband until like why do you think they still bring it up all the time? Like it's a badge of honor for them that they did something better than you. They think they're better than you for doing that, which is like okay. In your fake game of stupidity, you win. Like what do you want from me in this context? Well, like great. Okay.
And then like not only is engaged not married, right? But just because you're married doesn't mean that you're not gonna get divorced.
Right.
Right. And I know that in Christian kind of ideologies, the divorce is like a big bad thing for a lot of people, and they will do anything to avoid it. But then what? Like you're married to a person that you should have divorced, and you're still kind of wasting that thing that you saved for so long.
Well, it just doesn't set you up for like being able to deal with the realistic curveballs that life throws at you. And Mormonism is very similar. Like it's very like you get married, you have kids, you live happily ever after. That it's just very laid out for you very clearly. And it is, in the Bible too, they say it, but then it doesn't make room for all the things in life that impact those things. Like, what if my husband has an affair? What if my husband has a medical disorder that means that we can't have sex anymore? What if like it doesn't prepare them for all these other realistic things where I think that where Bethany and Kristen could actually be useful is like talking to married women about those nuanced things that happen. Like what happens if that happens in my marriage, or what happens if my husband has an affair in a healthy context, not this weird Christian moral superiority complex bullshit. Like that's what I think is so disappointing is like again, we just have the shame culture that seeps through everything because if it's like, oh, if my husband had an affair, the Bible doesn't talk about that. Christianity doesn't talk about it. Mormonism doesn't talk about it. Infidelity is bad. That's all I know. Like, it doesn't give, like, here's how you handle it. Here's how you move on with your life. Here's what this means about you. Here's what this means about him. Do you repair? Do you stay? Like, it doesn't give people enough direction. It just says, this is how it should be.
Yeah.
And then when it's inevitably not that, because life fucking happens, then you feel like shit because you feel like you've done something wrong.
Right. Well, and we're just talking about all kinds of shame, right? Because they talk about the big thing. Here's the big plan, how it should be. You get married, you save yourself for marriage, you have kids, you live happily ever after. They're not talking about the deviations where something went wrong, so to speak, in front of the congregation. They're saving that for a little special group apart from everybody on a weeknight or something where you can go and you can learn about these things, but they're not going to tell you about the things that will or could go wrong that are very common.
Yep.
They just want to, sell happy, everything's great.
Because you can't sell it if it ain't this. Like, it would just be like everybody else if they couldn't sell it this way. And then how am I better than you?
Right.
If that's what's happening. How do I feel like I'm better than the little peasants over there if I don't have this superiority complex to always land on? Like, that's what I'm talking about with Bethany, is it must be so frustrating that she waited to kiss him, waited to marry him, did everything by the book, and he still left the church. How does Christianity explain that one?
Right.
Have you find any good resources about that? I bet she feels like shit, quite honestly.
Right.
And I bet she blames herself. I hope she doesn't. But the culture of the church, especially in Mormonism, is to do that. Like, your partner leaves and there is a time period where most people blame themselves to some degree. Like, even though it's irrational, it's a common thought to have because women in religion are always taught that they're responsible for the actions of men. And so when a man that's married to me leaves the church, by some level, I feel responsible. What did I do?
Right.
What did I not do enough? Did I not offer sex enough? Am I not a good enough mom? Like, you're just going through all the reasons, which isn't accurate. None of that is true. It probably has nothing to do with you. But that's why this is so unhealthy, is it situates you to just be absolutely pummeled by these life events when they inevitably happen.
Like, that's a red flag that you need to address and not just brush under the rug and act like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And in Love Defined, we unpack 10 red flags
It's
to
so good.
look for in a romantic
so good.
relationship. So if you want more on that, I would totally recommend grabbing that. But I just want to talk briefly about what are some of the, like, we've talked a lot about the spiritual side of it and, like, biblically why this is not a good choice, why it's not okay. But just from a practical standpoint, like, there are other dangers in sending nude photos of yourself and having your image of your body going onto someone else's device and getting uploaded into the cloud for probably forever. And then the danger of what will that person do? Oh, no, I'm not going to show it to anyone. It's just going to be for me. What happens when you break up? What happens when you're no longer together and he's showing his friends for fun or showing his friends for fun? Besides, he's not even your husband. But just the dangers of, like, this is out there forever. Like, you cannot truly scrub the internet of anything. Like, there are ways things can be found even when deleted. So just even thinking from not even spiritually, but just practically, like, do you really want to have nude images of yourself out in the cyber world forever? One day you're getting a job. One day you're married happily to a guy.
This is what we call informed consent. Right? Because I'm taking in the risk factors, I'm taking in even far-fetched possibilities, I'm taking in things that might be more realistic, and I'm taking in all that information about those possibilities and then making a decision.
Right.
Inevitably, there are millions of people on the planet, maybe that's an exaggeration, there are a lot of people on the planet who are willing to do this, and the risk mitigation that they're doing, or whatever that looks like for them, is enough, or they don't care, or they're not worried about it, or it's whatever. Like, that's the thing. But instead of just stopping here and going practically be aware of these things before you make a decision, this is more reason why this is morally wrong. Like, if they just did this, like, here are practical considerations for doing this, I'd be like, cool. Yeah, these are things that you need to think about if you're going to engage in this with somebody. These are not bad things to think about when engaging in this with somebody. But we don't end it there. Like, the whole front half of this video has been about why morally, spiritually, ethically, you shouldn't engage in this behavior because it's shameful.
Because it's shameful that anybody could possibly see your body.
Right. Like, how do you get any other impression other than that?
Your job to protect it. It's not, the social implications that you've had when you shared it with a person and the trust that you shared with them to not share it with another person because that would make you uncomfortable.
Sure.
It would be a bad thing if you allowed people to see your naked body.
Well, and if you decide, like, if you're just a secular person who doesn't want to do that, then that's fine because you've taken in the information and the possibilities. You don't want to do it, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm not out here saying you all need to take naked photos and upload them to Facebook.com so the whole world can see them.
100
because
dirty
that's the only
photos
way
of
to
yourself.
not be ashamed of your body and things like that. No. But
don't think you're too spooky. In the words of Moira Rose. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like the informed consent, and then you make a decision based on your value system. Your value system might not even be religious, and you decide this is not for you because you just don't want to deal with it, or it sounds stressful, or whatever, and that's fine. But like the underpinnings of this for Christianity is like, you don't get to make a decision based off the logic. You're making a decision based off the fact that this is spiritually wrong.
Right. And she said, job interview?
Who's
If you are in a job interview and they're like, can you explain to me these nude photos that you took of yourself? Walk the fuck out, because what even is that? They should not be doing that. Don't worry about it.
These two are just, I mean, this is also why nobody watches their shit. Unironically, because they're so off base from the average person's experiences. Like a job interview, like I can see shit you post on social media, but like who's posting their nudes on social media? Unless you're like in the business.
Right.
That's not happening. Like, what are you even saying or talking about? Like, you sound like, you sound like what boomers sound like to me when they're lecturing me about something stupid.
Right.
This is not any hate to our boomers who watch us, because you guys are the exception, not the rule.
Yeah. And I guess she probably brings that up because it's just another fear tactic. Because the only people who are going to be giving a shit about that is if they're like a Christian and they stumbled upon that you used to do OnlyFans or something like that. And then they're going to discriminate against you. So shame on those Christians, honestly, who are supposed to be hiring you, if they're going to be out there and they're like, oh, well, she used to do OnlyFans, as if that fucking interferes with your ability to do the job or whatever.
Well, and it's
I
just,
don't know.
I don't think we motivate kids properly by doing it this way. I think looking at the legalities of things like this, because if we're talking about underage kids and explicit photos, like there's legal implications for those things that kids need to be knowing about and aware of. And that's different than like, you shouldn't do this because it's morally bad, because kids aren't going to listen to you. Kids don't care. Kids don't care. Like, they need to know the actual real world consequences of something like this. And just the moral, it's sexual impurity ain't going to do it for him. I got news for you. For some it might, but for the majority, they don't care.
And maybe they do care, but sometimes it's not enough.
No, it's not.
Other man and you have children and this image is resurfaces, like, just practically, it's not even a wise choice. Like, I don't recommend it even on that level. We just need to sometimes think a little bit ahead of the moment we're in and really ask ourselves, is this a wise choice?
For some reason, I thought of this when Dave and I were dating. So Dave, my husband, is like, if he says he's going to do something, like, he will do it. Like, there's how you're like, I'm going to read the Bible this year in a year. And like, you get like to the end of, Genesis and you're Deuteronomy and you're like, and you're in Deuteronomy the rest of the year.
Maybe
it's like my
year.
husband is the type where it's like, if he says he's going to do something, he does it. Like, I remember the first 2 years of our marriage, I think he did like the Bible in a year, like both years, and like anything like that, he just says he's going to do. So anyway, when we were dating, he like decided like very specific like boundaries or things that we were going to have. And even now he might be like, okay, maybe those were a little extreme or whatever, but like I could not budge him. And I remember thinking like, okay, you're so extreme, like, so like,
where is this going? We're talking about
I know.
photos.
She said what I was thinking.
But also,
no notes.
Knowing what we know, does that not point to such severe scrupulosity in Dave? And why that scrupulosity is not sustainable?
Yeah.
It's not sustainable. Like, scrupulosity will drive you into the ground, mental health wise. Like, it is just not something that is sustainable. You can have your convictions and your beliefs, but if they start to get in this kind of context where there's no boundaries, there's no wiggle room, like, we're in danger. We're in danger because it's not healthy for your brain or yourself to be able to maintain things in that much of an extreme.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, our physical boundaries were like, he did not, like, he was a man of his word. What he said was going to happen. And sometimes I was like, okay, look, you don't have to be, like, I remember just thinking, like, I'm the extreme one. Like, I'm saving my first kiss for marriage. Like, how like, we're so strict.
You be more extreme?
We're so strict. But the positive of that is that after getting married and being on the other side of it, I realized, like, wow, that's an incredible quality to have a man who respects his word, and what he says he's going to do, he does. And you don't have to wonder, like, behind the scenes what kind of shenanigans and stuff he's doing, because he's a man of his word. And so that's an incredible quality to look for in a guy. If he says he's a Christian, does he live like a Christian?
Yeah.
Does he value God's word? Does he value purity and honor and respecting the marriage covenant? Because it's easy to say things, but what are his actions? What does he actually do? Because if he's saying like, oh yes, I value sex for marriage, like, no, could you send me that nude on the side? It's like, like his words mean nothing, you know? And that's not someone you want to end up with. That's not someone you want to marry. You want to marry a man that you can like trust, that his word means something to him, that what he says he believes actually outplays like in his life.
Yes.
So I just want to encourage you with that to like consider that in this conversation, because a guy asking for nude photos, like, one, is he even declaring to be a Christian? Because that's important too. But also, if he is, like, where are his values? Where are his morals? What is he getting this from the word? Like, yes, ask for nude photos. Like, what kind of guy is he? So look for a man who says, yes, I do declare that.
Yeah, because wherein it doesn't say no nude photos in there. Like, to just be contrarian here.
Plain devil's advocate. But I also, in these sorts of situations, I feel like
this is so milquetoast.
It's so milquetoast, and it's also like this always there's so many stories where he was the perfect guy. He was good with God. Everything he said he would do. And then it's all good until all of a sudden it's not, right? All of a sudden they have an affair. There are plenty of extremely pious, walking upright in front of the Lord, people who have an affair.
Yep.
Who, change out of nowhere. So, like, you can, and I'm not saying that you can't build trust with a person.
Sure.
Or whatever, and that you should always be waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it's excusing the fact that it's not always like that.
Well, this is why people don't watch this shit again, because this is just so mind-blowingly bland. Like,
right.
You want a man, like, there is nothing groundbreaking about somebody who comes on here and is like, you want a man who keeps to his word. Wow, awesome. Like, seriously, who cares?
Right.
Yes, obviously, you want a man who does that. That's like dating 101. Like, this is the surface level of these two women is why this sucks. Because there's no depth. There's no beyond, like, this is what the Bible says. This is what I do. I'm better than you. Right. And, like, when you're there, like, we're in the shallow end of the pool. I got nothing over here.
What are we doing?
I'm zoning out while you're saying shit to me. Like, none of this is...
Right.
Great.
Awesome.
Love that.
What kind of guy is he? So look for a man who says, yes, I do declare that Christ is Lord of my life, and I want to actually live this out, and I'm striving for that. Yes. So that's just something really important to consider.
Well, you said, what kind of guy is he? He's that kind of guy. It answers it. Actions speak louder than words. That is actually true. Like, words are easy to say, but the kind of guy he is the kind of actions that he...
So we're in kindergarten.
Wow. Like,
we're
what?
In kindergarten.
Okay.
Seriously, who is the audience?
This is like, you couldn't even find this in a self-help book, because this would be like the prologue. Like, you couldn't, like, this wouldn't even be anything that you would be like, wow, yeah, that's like really helpful. I can actually take that and apply it to my life, because it's like common fucking sense.
Right.
He shows.
Exactly.
So that is good. We're going to end on that note, guys. I hope this was encouraging to you.
Thank God.
More encouraging than...
It was not.
Anyway.
It was not encouraging to me. Worst hour and 22 minutes of my life. Not really, but,
It won't be that long for you guys, but...
I hated it. Thanks, I hated it.
I don't know. I guess it just goes to show that they've been doing the same thing for, like, over a decade now.
Like, we can't even... Like, there's not even any... Like, at least when Bethany was having her escapades, we were getting, like, updated content. And I feel like she even maybe talked about nude photos within marriage on her Instagram. Maybe I'm wrong. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But I feel like that was a topic that she talked about on her Instagram. Right. But anyway, like, it's the same shit, different day.
Right.
It's like the most casual, stupid, common sense Christian shit you've ever heard in your life. And, like, they drove to each other's houses for this. They set up microphones for this. They probably made, like, bullet points in a script for this. That's the best you can do? Like, that's what you got for me right now? I'm bored. I'm bored by this. Do something interesting. I remember you guys used to say shit that used to make me want to fucking throw my head up against a wall. And now I'm just looking at this and going, okay. Like, clearly you guys are on the same bullshit you've always been. Bethany, I never once for a fucking second believed that maybe you had the capability of change. That's really cruel of me to say, but I'm really fucking annoyed with it, because it's like she put on the hat and then took it off when she realized the backlash she'd get.
That she had to do some work.
that she had to do some work beyond just like saying or like being okay with queer people existing around me in my space. Like there's more to it than that. And I just don't buy it. Like you have so much privilege in the position that you exist in that it's just not cute to me to like, it's all, it felt for clout almost. And maybe it was authentic and she changed her mind and went back on it.
Right.
That's always a possibility, right? She could have decided that it's not for her anymore. But like to potentially pivot, like lead people with the impression that content might be shifting, that you might be shifting your perspective, that you're supporting your partner, whatever. And then to come back and dive like head first into white supremacy bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, girl.
And just doing the same thing that you've been doing. I don't know. And
Cut the cameras.
maybe it was external involvement or the collaboration that they did that maybe led her to believe, oh, this isn't something that I should be
Maybe
involving
she
myself
jumped
with.
in too deep too fast.
So honestly,
be.
we'll never know in that aspect. But, it begs the question what it could have been.
It begs the question what it could have been. But I'm not going to have an ounce of respect for you left if you do that and then you pivot into like white nationalist insanity. Like,
Right.
Stay the away from me. What the hell's wrong with you? I don't have productive conversations with a person that's posting shit like that. Like, get the hell away from me.
Anyway,
I hope this was fun and encouraging for you. I hope
Or
you're feeling
educational, right?
uplifted. Yeah, you're uplifted, and I hope you're not disappointed, and may all your dreams come true.
I hope that you have a God-honoring week or weekend or whatever day you watch this.
I hope you
Moment.
have a God-honoring sex life and a man or woman with God-honoring traits or whatever the it is that these women claim that they want nowadays.
But anyway, if you'd like to see more of this, you can find it here on YouTube. You can hit the subscribe button. Obviously.
You can find it right
You
here.
can find it right here on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. You can become a member or join the Patreon if you'd like to support the channel even more. We appreciate that. We try to do extra stuff whenever we can. We've been doing watch parties. We missed last week and this week. So
May next month, we're just about there. Today's April 23rd, but we're just about there. Next month, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is coming back.
returns.
So you bet your fucking ass that we're going to be doing Secret Lives of Mormon Wives watch parties on our channel, just like we did the time before.
It was the reason why we added the bottom tier, was that so everybody could join us.
It's only $1, so you don't have to actually get the whole thing set up and watch it on your own time. Like, there's a live chat. You can engage with us and everybody in the audience. There's usually a bunch of people, and we talk before the premiere, we talk after, and it's a blast, and it's only $1.
Right.
So
we do it over on Discord, so
it's super easy.
join the Discord.
I'm Discord illiterate, and I was able to figure it out. So if you get stuck, we're here to help you. But it will be super fun because this season, I just saw the trailer. It already looks messy. So make sure that you're ready to go for that next month.
Let's go. So yeah, join that. We can't do it here on YouTube because it's obviously going to get copyright claimed immediately. So that's why we do it over there. But check that out. If you'd like more up-to-date updates or like shit posts or whatever, you can find us on Instagram. We post clips and stuff sometimes to TikTok. You can follow us there too. You can find us at both of those places, at Jordan and McKay. That should change soon, as we're going to change it to Viral Virtue. But then, yeah, I mentioned the Discord. Other than that, we love you. You're awesome. Don't listen to people who are telling you to be ashamed of your body or how you want to express your sexuality, because you're valid, honestly. So
You are valid.
we'll see you next time.